Hello, everyone. Jeff Johnson and Jeff Linder here from the Gazette for another edition of
Jeff
See
Johnson.
that? Call it both ways. That's going to be our, since we don't have a big fancy pennant or anything.
I could cut that up and make a pennant out of it.
This was given. I was at North Lynn the other night, and I walked into the gym, and they had a seat for me up in the corner, which was very nice, and it had my name. And then actually, this is faded. It was a lot darker at the time, but it said "Call it both ways" in honor of our podcast.
Well, that's nice.
So apparently, the person who did this has not come forth, but I got a pretty good idea. Jared Collum, who did it. So free popcorn as well Friday night. So I had a great Friday night at North Lynn, Mr. Linder. Not that anybody cares, but. Anyway, we are here to call it both ways, and we're going to call it football way first of all, since a week ago on our prior podcast we did not have all the particulars of the IHSAA's decision via about football and how the season was going to play out and how the postseason was going to play out. And as it turned out, Jeff, what happened?
Nothing from 3A down to 8-man, right?
Correct,
Or 8
correct.
player. And then a lot in 4A. So no district champions because there are no districts. Everybody's at large, right?
This is 4A, yep.
And 16 teams qualify. I think you could say the association tried.
Yes, absolutely.
And they, I'm not crazy about it. I don't hate it. Give it a year's chance and see what it does. What do you think?
Without getting into
helps.
specific, what are they calling it? A competitive
There's groups and there's tiers
balance
and
concept.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to see Dowling play Des Moines North. I think that's basically outlawed. Dowling will play the best teams, and the lower teams will play the lower teams, and it's going to help you in the win-loss record. It's going to hurt you in the strength of schedule, and I think it's all going to wash itself out, and it'll be fine.
This is a one-year thing, so everything comes back up for discussion in all classes next year. My guess is that if this 4A thing works or works even a little bit, you might see this kind of trickle down into the other classes, perhaps. So.
I don't think it's as big a problem in the lower classes. I don't think there's the disparity between the haves and the have-nots, and a lot of the disparity is just a 1 or 2 year deal based on who's got some good classes going through.
Well, I will agree with you to an extent there, but you come talk to me next fall after Regina runs its way to a Class A state championship since it dropped this year, or Solon in 2A. And things like that. So, but that's a whole other discussion. But as Jeff said, basically this is the IHSAA went back 4 years, the prior 4 years, and looked at regular season record and playoff or postseason success for all the 4A schools. And first of all, 2 teams were lopped off. It's now a 40-team class instead of 42. And then they tiered them as into, what was it, 8 tiers? No,
7, I think. I think there's 6s and 5s in each of the groups.
So they tiered them all off.
Groups and tiers kind of make my head fall off.
Anyway, and then they basically came out with half the schedule. 4 games are set right now.
I think 5.
Is it 5?
I think it's 5.
And
which is what it would be anyway.
Yes, it is. It is. It's 2. No, that's 2 from your group.
I think you play 2 from your group, and then 3 non-groups. And I think that gets you to 5, and then they got to find 4 more.
So anyway, then you can't play too far out of your tier group. Basically, is what
I don't think Tier 1 and Tier 2 teams can play Tier 5 and Tier 6.
Correct. And that's when you're talking about your Tier 1s were, your Dowling. Actually, I can just show you this right now, as a matter of fact.
We came unprepared.
Yes, we did. Big time, bigly. So, team listing, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 5 games have been assigned. I'm looking at the groups right now. For instance, you look at Dowling's schedule. They play. They were in a group with Ermidale, Fort Dodge, Des Moines, Roosevelt, Council Bluffs, Lincoln, and Sioux City North. So they were set up to play 2 teams out of that group. But it had to
Which would be the tier 2 and the tier 3.
The tier 2 and the tier 3, which would be Urbandale and Fort Dodge in this case.
And the tier 4. They play Roosevelt too.
You're correct. You're correct. So, and then you're assigned 2 games out of your non-group, but it had to be against either a tier 1, which you were, or a tier 2, which is the next tier down, and that's how they got Waukee and Ankeny Centennial. So, it's an interesting concept, as we said. I know there's some people that are unhappy, as you can imagine.
Well, of course.
I think Cedar Rapids Kennedy, for instance, has a very, very tough schedule, assigned schedule.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at having to play Bettendorf, Davenport North, Pleasant Valley, Cedar Rapids Prairie, and Cedar Falls, those are set games right now. And then they're going to have to find 4 others. Obviously, they would play Washington and Jefferson, so there's 2 or 4 right there, and then who knows after that. So,
right.
So that's a pretty tough schedule.
Maybe it's time that Kennedy plays Xavier again.
Yeah, could be. But then, you got to have a math major on your sideline figuring out what's the best way to get a high RPI so you're one of the top 16 RPIs.
Playing Xavier would help.
You think so? Even though you're playing down? Yeah, class doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Okay, there you go. Boom-de. So anyway, it sounds convoluted, and it is, in a sense. But as Jeff said, they tried something. They realized they have a problem. I think they probably got a lot of heat from certain big school districts, Des Moines, Public,
Sioux City,
Iowa City,
perhaps.
Sioux City, where I'd heard a lot of things about perhaps even just dropping varsity football. Davenport. So they tried something.
Yeah.
They realized there's a problem. Let's see what we can do about it. There were meetings between a classification committee consisting of Girls Union and Boys Association, and they're going to continue to meet. And who knows if this might trickle down into other sports as well. So there you go. And feel free to at JT Linder for any specific questions on the mathematic formula with this, because he's got it all down on Twitter. So. Anyway,
they didn't change the RPI, right? The RPI is still what it was.
That is correct. Yes.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of change.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it's going to be fine. I think a lot of people are unhappy that it's just 16 teams in the playoffs again.
And that could change in a year.
Yeah. I like that they're just doing it for 1 instead of 2. I think maybe they ought to do that, from here on out, just to have a 1-year deal. And I still think that a lot of it's because Waukee Northwest is coming aboard here shortly. Is that 1 year or 2?
Next season, I believe.
Okay.
Next season. So, yeah.
So whoever the 40th team is will trickle down, I would think, after that.
And, some of this certainly is player participation driven.
Mm-hmm.
You want as many kids as possible to play the game, and if you're a kid, say one of the Des Moines public schools, Des Moines Lincoln, or that's a big school, right?
Yeah,
or something like that. Going in, you're going to get your head bashed in by all the suburban schools that are on your schedule. So
Des Moines Roosevelt gave everybody a little bit of hope last year that it can be done. So,
but we're still talking about what the publics are 0-100 and whatever against suburban schools over the last how many every year. So
it wasn't too long ago that Cedar Rapids, Washington was really, really, really good.
That's true.
And Cedar Rapids Kennedy's been very good the last 5 years. So it can happen.
So we'll see. We'll see how this all works out when we get a 6-3 team from one of the tier 6 schools or whatever it is that gets in because it had maybe an inferior schedule over.
But if
over
it has an
somebody.
inferior schedule with the RPI the way it is, you're going to run into Sigourney problems. 6-3 is not going to get you in if your schedule's bad.
But opponents and they go opponents records and opponents records. So what if there's like 2 or 3 or 4 of the lower tier schools that beat up on everybody else, and their records are going to be good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think a lot of it is to get some of these really, really bad schools from 0-9 and terrible, maybe to 3-6. And if you're 3-6, you see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. You start getting a few more kids out, and then maybe 3-6 becomes 5-4 in a few more years. But on the other hand, if you get to 3-6 and 5-4, you're not going to be tier 5 or tier 6 anymore either.
That's correct. That is correct. So we'll see how it works out. Talk to us in a year.
Yeah.
We'll probably still be sitting here waiting to see what the association wants to do with all the classes again.
Let's give it a chance.
Yeah. All we are saying is give peace a chance. Right?
There you go.
So let's head over to the basketball portion now of our program. And Jeff, the week that was actually, you know what? Let's go Hawkeyes off the top because there's a big game tonight.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about the week that was. We'll talk about the night that is. Big game. One of the biggest regular season games the Iowa women have had in the Bluter era. They're basically playing for first place outright in the Big Ten. With the winner will be a game up with 4 to go. And if it's Iowa that wins, there'll be 1 game plus a tiebreaker up on Maryland. They'd still be a half game up on Northwestern, which would become kind of their primary chaser. But if they could win over there, that'd be huge. I mean, that would really legitimize Iowa as far as not just the Big Ten favorite, but they probably move into the top 12 to 15 in the country. And will put themselves in a really nice position for the rest of the season. If they lose, well, they were supposed to lose. They weren't even supposed to be in the race, and no harm done.
Do they have odds on women's games? Just out of curiosity.
You got to look. You got to look around. There's
What's Charlie Cream say about this one?
I don't know what Charlie Cream says, but there is a place called 5 Dimes. You got to do some looking, and they do have Maryland as a 10.5-point favorite tonight.
All right. Do you think 5 Dimes is generally fairly?
I think so. I mean, it's a betting company, so they're going to want to make money. I'd say 10.5 is probably fairly accurate over there.
Okay. All right. On the high school, on the girls' side, we have tournament play, believe it or not, starting tonight. This is Thursday night. Class 1A, correct?
Yeah, a few games in north central Iowa have been moved to Saturday because the bitter cold my nose is running. A few games closer to home have gone from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock, try to get people in and out. Some decent 1A games. The good ones will come in another round or two. I think, like always, the Union did a pretty good job of splitting teams in the smaller classes. The one I'm looking forward to there are 2 really good non-conference games tonight. I'll be up at Cascade for Northland and Cascade. Northland's ranked number 3. Cascade's number 1 in 2A. And then DeWitt Central hosts Marion with the WAMAC East title on the line.
DeWitt have a chance to beat Marion?
Over there, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, Marion beat them by 11 over here less than a week ago. Yeah, Marion's going to have to go over there and play well, or they're going to get beat. DeWitt Central has a couple really good sophomores. It's a program that's on the rise. If Marion plays to Marion potential, they'll win. If not, then they're going to have their hands full.
Let's flip it over to the boys' side for just a little bit here. Was able to see Northland play for the first time since opening week, believe it or not.
They play Springville
last Friday. Played a good Springville team. And Northland kind of warmed down with a big second half run, as Northland is wont to do. And won by 19, I believe the final spread was, which was Northland's closest game of the season. It'll be interesting. That was, oh my God, they haven't lost a conference game in season since 2014. And the specific numbers as of last Friday they'd won 121 of their last 125 games overall. The last conference team to beat them was Alburnett in a district game in 2016.
So that wouldn't be a conference loss.
Correct. So I mean, they just do what they do. They press the living bejesus out of you and score a lot of points in bunches that way, and it'll be really, really interesting once the playoffs start because they played almost an entirely 1A schedule. 2A's a good class, especially around here, so it'll be
Didn't
interesting.
hurt them last year.
No, but they also don't have Jay Kilmer this year either, so
True.
that's we'll see how it works out. Austin Helmer's doing a very nice job as a sophomore, kind of stepped into that point guard role, and Austin Miller's had a great season, 6'2" guy. Who's just Mr. Hustle, is always going to get the loose balls, averaging about 21 a game. And he can dunk. Still waiting for the behind-the-back 360, though, Austin, you promised. So they're good. We'll find out here a lot more starting next week. And Springville, can Springville be this year's Alburnett? Alburnett came out of nowhere last season and overshadowed by Northland.
Where are they at in
Game
the
in
conference?
1A. They are right behind Northland.
Okay. They're in second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second place. They lost 3 conference games, so
That's pretty good.
Orioles are an undersized team, but they have a lot of good guards, and they're they have a lot of underclassmen, so next year's going to be just as good, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of run the Orioles can make in.
What kind of year is Central City having with Nick Reed?
Good. Northland beat them the other night, so I think the record's, I want to say 13-6, something like that. I mean, he's a terrific player. There's no question about that. And they got number 2 seed in their district, and they've really come around. I saw him real early in the season again, and then I saw him at Kennedy at that shootout thing, and he gets some help this season, I think, from other guys, which is huge. But I mean, you just look at his numbers. I think he's 4th in the state in scoring and number 1 in rebounds, averaging like 19 rebounds a game, which is just outrageous. Mm-hmm. He's such a skilled kid. He's going to be a good player, I think, at the Division II level without question. Yeah, he's averaging even 20 rebounds a game. So that's 7 more than the next guy.
That's pretty good.
So that's pretty good. What else, Jeffrey, on the girls' side here? Well, you have all the parents. We talked about that last week.
Every class is out now. I usually don't have many issues at all with what the union does. I do have one in 5A.
Uh-oh. Let's go.
Well, so the top 8 teams are basically top seeds. The top 8 ranked teams are top seeds. And so was number 6 was Southeast Polk, 7's Waterloo West, 8 is Davenport North, 9 is Cedar Rapids Prairie. So, okay. But here's the thing. Prairie has 3 losses this year, and Waterloo West has 4. I think 4, maybe 5. Let's look. They've got 4. Prairie's got 3. Prairie went to Waterloo West and won by 20. Prairie's got a better conference record than West, and they've got a better BC Moore computer ranking than West. But West is 7 and Prairie's 9. So timing isn't a great thing on Prairie's part. They've lost 3 out of 3 out of 5 to Waverly, which isn't a bad loss. They're a very good 4A team. City High, which is number 1, but that was by 30. And I'm sure that was a factor. And to Davenport North, which should be ahead of Prairie based on head-to-head. But so do you go by what's happened recently, or do you go by whole season resume? If you go by whole season resume, then I think you have to put Prairie ahead of Waterloo West, but they didn't.
You hear that, Union? You screwed up.
No, I'm not saying that.
Up.
They get it right almost all the
time. You saw Prairie last week, was it?
I saw them against Iowa City High.
Yeah. I don't think we didn't talk.
No,
really
we haven't
much about
talked since then.
game.
That was last Friday. City High was really good.
Yeah.
Aubrey Jones started 7-7 from 3-point, finished 9 for 13, had 30-some points, and they caught up City High on a great night. City High's, when they shoot like that, they're going to be really, really tough to beat by anybody. And, the other night was one of those nights, and sometimes you just got to live with that.
Congratulations, Mount Vernon. I was at Mount Vernon Monday night, too. Forgot all about that. The Mustangs clinched the WAMAC. If you don't know, the WAMAC kind of plays. I say they play for 3 championships.
Yeah.
They play for each division. That's 2, and then the overall, I guess.
Yeah.
Who has the best conference record out of all of them? Mount Vernon won 2 of those 3 things Monday night by beating Marion. Won its eighth in a row. 18-2 record, I think, with 1 to go.
They got some pretty good teams over in that WAMAC East, don't they?
Yes, they do. When you looked at these, I think Mount Vernon, Dyersville, Beckman, Marion, and DeWitt Central all were ranked at one point this season. So it's a great division. And Mount Vernon survived. As the coach Ed Tim said, we earned it. And that's a good basketball team. It's really playing its best ball of the season right now.
And they're 3A, right?
3A.
They must be a small 3A.
Yeah, and sub-state wise, they're in with like Cedar Rapids Xavier. I think is the 3rd seed, even though it hasn't been released. My sources say that's what Mount Vernon's a 1 and Xavier's a 3. So
who's the 2?
It's Center Point or Urbana, I want to say.
Okay.
This is all off the record, folks. It's not out yet, so just what I've been told. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ed's a great coach. It's amazing. Somebody was telling me his coaching trained the number of guys that are coaching high school basketball that played for him because he was at Cornell College before this. And Josh Davis at Comanche, Mike Halak at Center Point, Urbana, and you can kind of go up and down the line. It's like four or five guys. The coach Michael Connor over at West Des Moines Dowling, and it's all guys, with teams that have legit chances to make it to the state tournament this year, as does Ed. So how about that? If there's Ed, Tim, and 4 of the guys or 5 of the guys that learned the game under him, that'd be. I might have to write that story. So we'll see. We will see. All right, you had a couple questions.
Yeah, I did.
From our
one was about
audience.
football playoffs, whether we needed to have a degree in physics to figure out the football playoffs.
Yes, it would help.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. I'd like to have that anyway, but
Yes.
I would never
Yes.
pass those classes. Also, if we had a Hoosier situation in which we had 1 week to prepare, get ready for a tournament. Let me get this right.
Phrase this exactly.
Imagine a Hoosier situation, but right after qualifying for state, what current Iowa high school coach, 1 boys, 1 girls, do you bring in that has that to give 1 week to get to know the team and build a game plan to win a title? So let's say something terrible happens and a coach is no longer there. Who do you?
We're not saying death or anything like that.
Let's just say bad illness.
Yeah, there we go. Or an accident, or that,
yeah.
and the coach recovers.
Let's just say the whole coaching staff breaks their legs in a scouting trip, which would be terrible. So what do? You need to bring somebody in to coach this team. You've got 2 weeks. You got a week before the tournament, and then you've got the tournament. Who do you bring in? Anybody's available.
You want to go first?
In the state, the first 2 that come to my mind would probably be Tom Lilly, and
That's interesting.
from Xavier, and Scott DeYoung from Ankeny Centennial.
Really? Why do you say those 2?
They're just both really successful. They're just the first 2 that came to my mind.
Good game planners, things like that.
Yeah. How about you?
I think Steve Bergman would be right up there towards the top. It'd be a rude awakening for his new team to get used to him, I'll tell you that, in 1 week. But nobody coaches, nobody probably game plans or coaches defense better than that guy. So he's right up there. I'd say I'd like Mike and Bob Helmer, too. I mean, how can you go wrong with the guy that has more victories in the state than anybody else? And you put those 2 heads together for a week to try and game plan. I mean, they know They know what the heck the game's all about. So that's just a couple off the top of my head. There'd be a lot of good candidates, though.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
lot of good candidates. John McCown at Kennedy would be another one for me. So
Yeah.
just right off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Nate Sanderson, currently unemployed.
There you go.
Nobody, not many know film
There you go.
better than Nate.
There you go.
So
The rest of your week, you talked about Cascade tonight.
Cascade tonight, as long as that stays on. Tomorrow is Friday. I've got a Valentine's date with Storm and Norman, I think.
Do you? Does your wife know about this?
She does now.
Okay.
Actually, I'm covering Clear Creek Amana and Center Point Urbana tomorrow night, and one of which has a hyphen, one of which does not.
Yeah, that's always confuses me when you write that.
Yeah. And Saturday, 3A girls basketball regional semifinal. I'm leaning towards going to Solon for the Spartans and Vinton Schellsburg. Sunday is the Hawks in Wisconsin, and next week is next week, and we'll
worry about that then,
yeah.
right? So,
what do you got going on?
I got to come up with some sort of notebook for tomorrow. I need some ideas. No, I think what I'll do is we'll go through all the conferences and shed light on the ones that have been clinched and the ones that are still up for grabs. Friday night, I think it's still kind of iffy what I'm going to do. Right now, it's Prairie Wash girl-boy doubleheader. Might stick with that. We'll have to wait and see. Saturday, we'll have hockey. I haven't been over to the ice arena for a game for a while, and Waterloo comes to town for that for that rivalry game, and the postseason starts Monday. I've gone around and talked to some coaches. This is the fourth year that the coaches have seeded all the tournaments, so kind of got some feedback from some guys on just how they think it's gone in the 4 years, and seeding the whole darn thing from districts to through the state tournament. So that'll look for that. I think we'll run that for Monday leading into the tournament. So buckle up, baby.
Yeah,
this is where it gets fast and furious. So
season went fast.
Oh my goodness, I think so too, and that's a good thing, right?
Yep.
So I see track meetings have started. Everything's. You'll be hitting Kingston Stadium.
Be looking forward to some track here pretty soon, and we might actually have some meets here in April this year.
There you go. Thanks to Nathan Ford, as always, for all of his assistance with our podcast. For Call It Both Ways, Jeff and Jeff, at JT Linder, at JEJE66, by the way, on Twitter. Communicate with us, please. We love it. We'll call it both ways again next week. Thanks for joining.